Hey everybody, and welcome to the show. I'm going to dive right into my talk with horror author Ryan Major in just a second. You may know him better as gtripp14 on Reddit. Some of us other writers on Reddit Nosleep refer to him as Papa Nosleep because he's always giving advice, helping out new writers. You might know him from his book, I've Done This Before, recently published by Velox. Or you might know him from my YouTube channel, where he wrote the exclusive series, I'm a Park Ranger, specializing in the paranormal. Or maybe you know him from his best standalone story of the year, according to Reddit Nosleep. She Came to Me, Blanketed in the Stars. However you know him, or if this is the first you're hearing of him, let me assure you this is a writer who knows his stuff. His work has appeared on the Full Body Chills podcast, Lighthouse Horror, Dark Somnium and Mr. Creeps, as well as multiple appearances on my own channel, Grupe Horror. Recently, he's been branching out into writing horror video games for well-known labels. We discussed writing, selling stories, working with narrators and new authors, the transition into professional writing, and we also dove into Hollow's End a little bit. This is going to be the first of many interviews to come, so please let me know in the comments and tell me what you think of this first chat with author Ryan Major, aka gtripp14 on Reddit. Okay, let's dive right in.
I think I'm turning into more of a planner. Like, I've always been by the seat of my pants, but now I'm finding some of the best, I don't want to say the best stories I've written, but like some of the ones that I enjoy writing the most are the ones where the whole idea comes to me kind of formed, or I come up with the idea and come up with the ending and the general arc of it before I start writing. And that's been happening to me, I won't say all the time, but more and more. And it's a nice feeling of like knowing where the story is going. Although I kind of do a bit of both. Like, I kind of also like the feeling of just having an idea and a setting and just being like, I'm just going to go with it. But it's a lot harder to get focused on those stories and to finish those stories, I find.
It is. Well, it can be. I think it depends on what the story is, because you've been working on this Hollow's End for quite some time, and I've got to think that some of the episodes come up sporadically in your mind. I do believe that, but it seems to be a story where you have such rich lore, you've built so much around it. That's one. If you tell me that you pants that a majority of the time, I don't know if I could believe it, because it's so lovingly crafted. It's a continuous, believable place, and that kind of stuff to me really lends itself to the planning things out, knowing where you're going, because it's not going to write you into a corner. You've worked on it so much.
So I'll burst your bubble here right away.
I knew you would. I knew
you're
it.
not playing the Hollow's End at all. I don't have any preconceived plans for where that's going to go. That is one where I really like to just write it fly by the seat of my pants. Like,
that is twice as impressive as it was to me before, honestly, because and if you're listening and you have not listened to Jordan's Hollow's End series, it is massively entertaining. You are the best person that I know personally who writes horror comedy. They're funny, they're disturbing, and I am way more impressed than ever to know that you don't plan those out, because they are just so damn funny.
That's very kind of you. Thank you very much for saying that. That's really kind.
Oh, gladly.
But yeah, those ones in particular, I kind of have a general idea of where things are going for, like, this. Kind of calling them books at this point, where the first, like, the Monkey Paw series was a book, and then kind of this next chapter of the story is going to be called a book, basically. But so I kind of have a rough idea of like where it's headed, but I don't know where it's going to end up at all.
Okay, so nobody literally dropped you off in the woods. There's a topographical map, but you don't have a path. You don't have a map to the paths. Would that be kind of fair to say?
More or less, yeah. Like, I have kind of, I would say I have what are they called? Landmarks on the map
Okay.
that I know I want to get to. But they're
Fair.
not all on the map. I know there's more stuff out there that I want to explore, and I'm going to find more stuff.
Yeah.
But I have these maybe 2, 3, 4 landmarks on the map that I want to get to. You know what I mean?
Oh, absolutely. And it's they're landmarks I'm looking forward to seeing. That's I'm not as much in the horror community as I once was. I still love it. It's just, life gets busy. But the Hollows End stories, anytime I see one of those pop up, that is you always seem to drop those when I'm traveling for work.
Oh,
And
perfect.
so, oh, dude, it is. I just get to, plug in the USB cord, hook up the Bluetooth, and I know I'm guaranteed 30 minutes to an hour of just absolute entertainment value listening to those while I drive. So, man, keep churning them out. If you're thinking about wrapping it up, please don't. I have 17 years to retirement, so I'm really going to need some more stories while I'm driving around.
I'd like to keep them going that long, if not longer. But I do want to say I would be remiss to not say I'm very flattered that you listen to the stories and that you like the stories, the Hollow's End stories, because a lot of writers that I chat with, like, they don't really listen to recordings that much or to narrations that much. It's more like if something I wrote is going to be narrated, then I'll listen to it. I hear people say a lot, which is kind of the way I am too.
Oh yeah, and that's fair.
So it's a compliment to that you listen to it. So I really appreciate that.
Well, for anybody, I mean, well, if somebody's listening to this anyway, I mean, there's somebody that already likes what you do, but there is a pretty small handful of narrators that I genuinely enjoy, and I'm not going to get on here and name check everybody. You are certainly on that list. You're somebody I just like to listen to the way that you narrate stories. You do a good job, even when they are not your stories. One of the reasons why I like listening to your channel is you're also a writer, and so I can, when I listen to your story, when I listen to your narrations, I can hear the care that you put into taking care of what somebody else has done. And so, as a writer who has never narrated any story at all, I just really appreciate that you treat other people's source material with respect. You don't try to venture off. I've had a lot of experiences where narrators have gone in and massively retooled a story to the point that it kind of makes you wonder, why did you want my story if you were going to change all of this? And so it's just those little things that makes your channel enjoyable to me. There are good narrators out there, but you're in my, what do you call it? What do the kids call it these days, Jordan? The S tier, the cream of the crop. I think your channel's just very well run, and I think your experience as a writer is really one of the biggest reasons I think you've succeeded so much as a narrator.
Thanks.
Sure.
I think one thing that has really helped, yeah, for sure, like being a writer and respecting people's stories, that it's not just words on a page. They're trying to craft an experience and a point of view where you're actually experiencing what happened in this story. Like, it's not meant to just be, I don't want to call out any narrators by name, but like, it's not meant to just be read as words on a page. And you can kind of tell that when certain readers or certain narrators are reading, it's like they're not in it, And like, I don't know, I saw some voice acting advice at some point, and I do have to take some voice acting classes at some point because I know I can get better. But I saw something about saying how just try to be in it, like you're not just reading words on a page. Like, try to feel what the character is feeling. And ever since that, I've really tried to embody that. And like, if I'm reading a story, I want to try to feel like I'm actually there,
I mean, that's a great approach. Have you ever read The Raven by Edgar Allan Poe?
I'm sure I did at some point in school, maybe, or something. Yeah.
Okay, and so I'm glad you said in school, because that was the first place that I came in contact with it. We had a fantastic AP English teacher in high school, and she knew I liked horror things, so she started trying to get me into some of the, not necessarily, I don't know that you can say there were really horror literature classics. There's certainly classic horror books, But she, tried to throw me a bone, and so she would assign me, Edgar Allan Poe, some Richard Matheson, and things like that. And I've got to tell you, I absolutely was just bored to death with The Raven. It was, I'm sure it's well written. You don't even have to have read it to know. Hey, yeah, Edgar Allan Poe wrote a really good poem. But it was not. It just didn't interest me very much. But I'll tell you, the funny thing to me is years and years later. Uh, Gosh, I can't. I mean, I guess it was probably about 2 or 3 years ago. I was listening to some YouTube narrator that does Appalachian folk tales and scary stories. And after his video was over, a recording of James Earl Jones reading The Raven came on. Just, that was the next one in the rotation. And I'll tell you, now I'm a massive fan of it.
I believe it, yeah.
So if you ever get a chance to listen to that, but I mean, that's an instance where I'm a reader naturally, Jordan. You were talking about writers listening to somebody narrate. A lot of us don't really listen to narrations as much, but that was the rare instance where a narration actually made me appreciate a piece of literature more than I was able to appreciate it as a reader.
Yeah. There's certain narrators. Oh shoot, what's the guy's name who played Geordie LaForge in Star Trek?
LeVar Burton.
LeVar Burton. Oh, I can't believe I forgot his name. He does a podcast where he reads short stories. I don't know if you ever heard of it.
I don't know that. No, man, I'm actually jotting down a note about that right now. It's pretty exciting.
It's fantastic. I got to listen to it more, but I kind of have my rotation of podcasts that I don't stray from too much, and that's about all the listening time I have usually. But his podcast is really good. He did one story that really stuck with me from the perspective of a haunted house. And the story itself had won a bunch of awards, huge awards. But yeah, he's another one of that. Like Dark Somnium's another narrator who, you look at his view counts and it's obvious why he gets the view counts he does. It's because he puts himself into the story and he writes his own music. He composes his own music. Like you can tell his stuff is really high quality just by listening for 5 seconds.
Oh, 100%. Since you name dropped him, I'll go ahead and tell you. Ronnie is 100. Dark Somnium. I guess not everybody knows people on a first name basis, but yeah, Dark Somnium is absolutely up there in one of my top tier podcasts. He is just so good to the material.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Animas is another, or I don't know how you say it, but his stuff, again, way underappreciated, 1,000 or 2,000 views per video, but he could be easily getting a lot more because he puts the time and effort in to do sound effects and do all this stuff and actually, does the hard job of putting himself in the story, which
he does.
Underappreciated skill.
And he really takes his time too. One of the things that I like about him, when because we know him in pseudo real life, I guess, is he's not a quantity over quality narrator. He's not out there to take any story he can get. He narrates stories that he loves, and that really shows through when he does. When he puts an episode out, you can tell how much he appreciated the story before he started recording it.
Oh yeah, 100%. And I noticed too that he's seeking out more stories that people haven't heard before. So I hope that gets him a bit of an untapped market in that sense, because I know a lot of the stories are not recycled, but people like myself have sold stories to multiple narrators, and it's not like you're going to turn people down for the most part, especially if they're offering to pay for a story. So. I fully understand
absolutely.
Their stories narrated multiple places.
We've all got bills to pay. As many times, I'll tell a story as many times as I possibly can.
Yeah, and I see comments all the time saying, "Oh, Lighthouse did this already," or blah blah blah. But it's sorry, I'm not going through everybody's catalog and reading, going through and looking to see, how many people have done this story necessarily. I'm just looking for good stories,
Exactly, and I think that's another reason why you've seen a slight rise in the channels are some the larger channels who can afford it. I understand not every narrator is making money, but a lot of the larger channels have started getting commission material, things that are only coming out through that channel. So I kind of think that's the whole comment section of, I've seen this before, I've read it. I feel like that is starting to diminish because you don't see as many things being played in as many spots anymore.
Yeah, yeah. I think there's certain authors who are very popular with narrators, and I'm sure their stuff is going to be making the rounds. But that's it's just kind of expected, right?
I mean, it's just kind of the price of doing business. There are some people, again, and we've talked about this earlier. There are just tons and tons of great writers from Nosleep, where we came from, right? Writing in creepy pastas, and some people write the really, really small, flash fiction, micro fiction, whatever you want to call it, and they're writing great stuff, but it's just not a link that's going to get picked up by a narrator. And then you've got some folks, Girl from the Crypt comes to mind. I mean, she would be a narrator's gold mine. Her Monster Hunter series, good Lord, how many entries did she have on there? I mean, it was an astounding amount. And so, I know from talking to her, she got flooded with requests to do it. She wasn't passing up permission for it, but, people who write vast amounts are writing these really kind of magnum opus size stories. That's I would imagine, having never been a narrator, that would be the kind of person who you would kind of haunt. I'm gonna stick around and see what you're doing, because I'm really hoping you churn out another 60,000 word novella.
Yeah, she was very kind and allowed me to read her Shifty Bar series on the channel.
Yes, which I did love, and that was a good long entry too. Exactly what I was talking about. That was a fantastic road trip story. Was that the one about the OP who inherited the bar?
Yeah, inherited the bar from her uncle, and it's got all these creatures. I don't know if they're ghosts or kind of fey creatures that live in the walls of the basement. But yeah, that was a really neat story. It's hard to find stuff. It's hard to find stuff like that. Like you mentioned the length, but I don't think it's just the length. I think it's like the characters are a huge part of it too. We call him Zero, but 02321 is another guy who does a lot of these really long series. His Mailman for Cryptids was picked up by Animast's channel and did 200,000 views or whatever. But I think the thing that sets these series apart, and I include Shifty Bar in this too, and other stories, is the characters are really, really original and likable, and people, want to keep coming back and finish the story for the characters,
absolutely. And that's where to me, that's where the valuable length comes in. It's not that the stories are overloaded with action sequences and the characters are doing this and this. I mean, they take their time. It's like taking a slow walk on a nice day, and there's a lot of beautiful things to see. They take their times introducing you to the characters. So even though it still falls in that classification of short fiction, they both, Zero and Girl from the Crypt, both write characters that have enough characterization that you could easily just say, well, let's go ahead and make this a novel. We have that much information.
Yeah, and it's like an old friend almost, where I look back at those series now, or series that I've written too, and you look back at those characters and they're almost like old friends, Like, you kind of fall in love with the characters, and you have good memory. Later on, you have good memories of those characters. And I find, I think that's one of the hardest things to capture in a story, and one one of the rarest things. Like, a lot of the videos I have on my channel that did viral, really good views, are those ones with these really compelling, really likable characters who you want to just read more and more about,
Absolutely, man. No, it's like reading any kind of good series that you've read in the past. You're just always waiting for the next book, and both of them, Zero and Girl from the Crypt, are two of those people. It's a no-brainer. The name pops up. It's a story worth catching. And it's always going to have those really rich, detailed, relatable characters that you always hope you see again.
Yeah. Changing topics just a little bit. I want to ask you about giving advice to new writers, because I noticed you do that a lot on Nosleep OC, which for people who don't know, it's kind of it's the out of character subreddit on Reddit where Nosleep writers kind of chat with each other and give advice or just talk about posting on a platform, whatever the case may be. And I noticed that for the past couple of years, you have really taken to kind of bringing newer writers under your wing and like kind of giving them advice. I saw you started a couple of Discord channels. I don't know how many exactly you started, but like all with the goal of kind of helping new writers. So I don't know if you want to talk a little bit about that and just kind of your experience with that, or what made you want to do that.
Sure thing. It's I would love to say it's some altruistic thing that I just kind of cooked up on my own, but as you know, that is very much the circumstance, really, where you and I met early on in Nosleep. Which I know everybody's own story is interesting to them, but I never really had any intention to be a writer. It was not something that was in my wheelhouse. I did it during the pandemic out of boredom, and so I had a really kind of rocky start to my own writing. Started writing just kind of haphazardly. Didn't really know what I was doing. And I would say if you go back and read some of my early stories, it's quite obvious I didn't know what I was doing. They're not good character arcs. Things are very superficial. And fortunately, Sugar Sowed. You know Sowed, don't you?
I'm sorry, who's that?
Sugar Sowed.
Oh, yeah. I chatted with them a bit. They do a lot of stuff on short scary stories, correct?
They do, yeah. Sugar's a really, really good writer. Met Sugar early on, and Sugar was nice enough to invite me to a writing Discord. And I can't remember, we've given funny names to them over the years, and I can't remember the name of it, but people like you, Travis Grand Theft Motto, Hawaiian Shirt, Roos 85, Simba the Savage, just a lot of really, really good writers were there. And I did not belong in there at the time. Sode was just very nice. He read one of my weird little stories and thought it was cool and just said, hey, you should come hang out with us. And so I really got to spend a lot of time gaining institutional knowledge for something that I didn't know a lot about. And so I really felt like I got a lot of help from really talented writers early on in my Nosleep writing. And it benefited me greatly. I went from not knowing what I was doing to having a fair enough idea that I could write what I considered to be at least a fairly decent story. And it gave me some ideas on how to educate myself. And so just having been around this group of really, really talented writers, Clockwork Monkey was in there, Decorative Gentleman, it was a little bit awe-inspiring to be, hanging out in this Discord chat with all of these writers that I really enjoyed. And so I got to soak up all of this knowledge. And so I hit a period, there was a while where myself, you, Motto, Hawaiian Shirt, Decorative Gentleman threw his head in there a couple of times. We went on, about a 6 or 8 month run where it was a toss of a coin which one of us were going to have the top story of the day on Nosleep. Things were going well, and I just felt like there was so much information that I was privileged enough to have gathered. There was a writer, and I'm not going to name check them. They're very, very good, but I think acting like you're somebody's mentor is probably one of the most tasteless things you can do. But a very good writer on Nosleep, who was a much better writer than I am, by all technical accounts, reached out for me and just said, hey, your stories do really well. Can you help me figure out what's wrong with my stuff that's, keeping me from getting views? Well, I went and read their stories, and here's the thing, man. It was better than anything I had written, so I hit them back and said, hey, you know what? It's not your writing. Your writing is great. It is fantastic. But what I'm going to tell you is, going back and looking at your posting history, you're posting at the wrong times. You're posting really late at night. You're posting way too early in the morning, and sometimes you're going up against people that you just can't win against, and it's a terrible thing to say, but there are people there. Yeah, exactly. I mean, you know that feeling.
It's all very secret, very good advice that nobody would know unless you told them.
Right. Well, and fortunately, they asked, and that was the only advice I had to give them was, and I'll share the same advice here. It was a trade secret at the time, I guess, but Jordan, we knew the rule. There's 10 people that you don't post after because they have that built-in audience. You're not going to be able to keep up with them.
Yeah.
You wait until the top story of the day is older than 12 hours because the algorithm kind of breaks up with it and starts looking for something new. You have to have that clickbait title. And so that was the information I gave them. I said, I have nothing else for you. Your stories are brilliant. You're a great writer. You need to teach me to write, but I'll teach you to post.
Yeah.
And it worked out for them.
I love that. Because it was I know exactly the time frame you're talking about, and it was such a competitive time. Everybody wanted to get their story narrated, get a quick $50-$60, maybe $80 from a narrator. And so, yeah, everybody was vying for that top spot of the day. They wanted that hot top story of the day. And I remember exactly the time period you're talking about. It was almost like the golden age of us as writers kind of chatting in Discord and all of us posting stories all the time. And yeah, it was like you were scared if one of those 10 people posted, it was like, okay, I'll save this for another day because I know it's going to get buried under this guy or under this lady.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And you kind of cracked the egg on why I got involved in trying to help people. You know what, Jordan? That was a golden age for me and you. It was not a golden age for everybody. It was a hard time to crack into. It was a time where, for good or for ill, name recognition was a really important component in it. And so, as I would cruise OC, I would just see questions, and you would see somebody ask a question in earnest. They really wanted to figure out how to do something better, and sometimes you just saw that, hey, nobody's really engaging with these, with this question. It's not that everything got ignored, but sometimes we all like to take our little victory circles and victory laps and talk about the good things we had going on. But then somebody would say like, oh, hey, my story, I don't feel like it's very good. What do I do? And people would respond with things like, well, this isn't where you get story feedback. Well, yeah, that's cool and all. That's true. That's not where you get story feedback on OC. But take the 5 seconds to just tell them, hey, if you go over to Nosleep Authors, post your story there. Somebody may look at it and give you some input. It would have taken you just as much time to answer that question as to say this isn't where you get story input.
Yeah.
And so it's I don't know, man. I'm a middle-aged dad anyway. Somebody's got questions. I kind of like to just help people out, and so especially as my writing decreased, I would see writers that I felt like, man, if they just had a little push in the right direction, they could have all of this fun that I had. And that was my motivation is no sleep writing, publishing the book, hanging out with you folks, getting to do all the cool stuff we've done. Man, it's been a blast. I've had such a good time that, Jordan, to be honest, 100% of my motivation is I hope that the good advice I give anyway is something that'll help somebody have at least half the fun that I've had, because it's just been such a blessing, man. I have such a good time with it. I know those early days are make or break. You can peter out pretty quickly. Things will, it can get overwhelming. And so, if there's anything that I can do to try to help somebody over that hump, I really would like to, because there's a lot of writers that I would greedily, there's a lot of really good writers that I would love to help you feel more comfortable with what you're doing, because I want to read your stuff for the next couple of years too.
Yeah, that gets me too sometimes. Like somebody will post an idea on Nosleep OC and say, I have this idea for a story, this is kind of the gist of it. And a lot of the time I'll jump in and give advice too. Sometimes I've seen you've already been, it's like, okay, Papa Nosleep's already given them advice, but I'll drop in my 2 cents too, And it's like, yeah, I really want to read the story. Like, you should just write it, post it,
Yeah,
get over that first hump and just get it down and post it because life is short. Just do these things that you've been putting off.
exactly. And anytime I see that you've already answered a question, man, 90% of the time I just move on because I already know. Jordan's already been there, or Travis has already been there. Look, good advice has been dropped at this point. It's just me showing up because you guys think I feel like I need to be there. The good advice has arrived.
Or
Uh,
that motto. Travis Brand's always good for giving some advice there as well.
oh, 100%. Well, you too as well. I know you guys have been really nice over the years, and call me Father Nosleep, Dad, no Papa Nosleep, all those things. But you guys have been out there absolutely killing it. You've been there longer than I have. You guys are fantastic, fantastic members of the community, and I think that's what it is just this desire to have it remain a community and have it be this good thing, and really the kind of things I do are things that I saw you and Travis and others model before I even started doing it. You guys have just always been really good to the people that were coming there to learn. And I think a lot of the times, man, as corny as it sounds, some people just need a quick, kind word to feel good about stuff. And I don't know, man, it's corny as all get out, but being nice costs you absolutely nothing. So I don't know why you wouldn't take a minute just to, be that decent person somebody needs to feel a little bit more comfortable in this really,
Yeah,
really weird thing that we do.
yeah, pay it forward, right? Like, that's one of those things where if I get a narration request on my Reddit account, it's not always going to get seen right away. It's not always going to get responded to right away. If they tell me their channel name, they tell me which story specifically, certain things, I'll get back to them. But
Yeah.
if somebody sends me a message asking for advice about writing, I don't know, it just gets me. It's like, yeah, like you reached out to me personally asking for advice. Like, I'm going to get back to you, and it's going to be a thoughtful, uh, well thought out response. It's not going to be copy and paste. I'm going to actually try to give you the best advice I can.
Yeah,
Because
100,
we've been
100%.
very fortunate. We've been very blessed. So let's pay it forward.
Yeah, yeah, man. As far as I see it, and it's a talent comes with it, Jordan. So don't think I'm, cutting you down a notch. Man, I fanboy about you in our personal conversations. I love your stuff, but at the end of the day, you and I caught lightning in a bottle.
Yeah,
We're not rich. Anybody that listens to this, it's not like I think you and I are celebrities or anything. We're not. We're normal workaday guys. But after I go work my 40-hour government job, get my kids in bed, and get the house cleaned up, I get to sit down and write horror stories that somebody buys and thousands of people listen to,
yeah,
and it's just this hell of a thing. We
yeah.
caught lightning in a bottle. It's very unusual, and uh, anybody that wants to do it, man, I just really want you to get there because it is just as cool as you think it'll be.
And we are part of this weird little club of people. I mean, I don't want to say it's as small as the group of the group of astronauts who've been in space or anything, but it's not a huge group of people who write stories to post on the internet and to go up on YouTube maybe, and who make money doing it. Like, it's kind of a weird thing. Like when I tell people my experience with that, and when I tell people my story of, the first time I posted on Reddit, somebody reached out and wanted to buy the story for $80 for their YouTube channel. It's like, it's a completely foreign thing to I want to say 99.9999% of people,
Oh yeah.
so we're in kind of a small group. So yeah, it's nice to be able to give advice to people and kind of share, what little knowledge we have about it with people. I wanted to ask you kind of a related question of just like transitioning from a no sleep writer to a paid writer. And I kind of just mentioned it a little bit just now of how it happened for me.
Yeah.
It was just somebody randomly reached out on Reddit and asked me if they could narrate my story. And I've been fortunate enough to work with some podcasts and things in the meantime as well. What's your experience been? I don't know if you want to share at all about your more recent experience at all with I don't know what you're allowed to say or what you're not allowed to say, or share about your professional writing experience here.
I'll share some things I can be really candid with, and some things kind of like we talked about. It gets kind of weird. I'm under NDAs with a few things, so I can describe
Right.
some projects and maybe not tell you exactly what they are, which would be like a really cool way to make a bunch of stuff up. But it is what it is. I'll tell you the verifiable things. I got started in a pretty similar fashion to you. I had posted. I even remember the story. I had posted. I can't remember what name I gave to it, but it was a story about this kind of nefarious guy making job postings online named Mr. Deacon. And you've done it for your channel, I believe, about 2 years ago. It seems like,
Great story.
and yeah, that had a good time writing it, man. That's one of those I really just kind of wish I'd written 100 of them because it was so fun. But I had posted that, and I'll Die Soon on the Whitaker Trail. Those were two of my earliest stories, and kind of like you, when I put them up, and I wonder if we didn't sell them to the same channel, honestly. But I put those stories up, and Stephen over at Lighthouse Horror reached out to me and said, "Hey, can I do your stories on my site?" Well, at the time, Jordan, I didn't know anything about it at all, and so I will give Stephen quite a good deal of credit on entering this from a business perspective. So, he had sent me a message on Reddit and said, "Hey, can I narrate your story on YouTube?" And I'm like, yeah, I mean, I guess. Have fun. I did not know that this was a lucrative thing at all. I didn't know money was made with it. And so I told him, go ahead, man. Have a good day. And he follows up and says, "Well, what's your PayPal?" I said, "I'm not giving you that. That's, what do you, why do you need payment portal stuff?" I was like, "Well, I'm going to give you $75."
You thought he wanted you to pay him.
Yeah, yeah. At that point, I'm like, "Oh, is this like one of those weird things where it's a vanity project?" And you think I'm going to give you some cash for this? Like, nah, dude, you've got me wrong. And he was like, "No, I want to pay you $75. It's kind of a licensing fee for me to use it on there because, And Steven was very candid with me. He said, I'm going to make money off this. I get ad revenue. I do pretty well from it. So, I'm going to give you some money." And I was like, "Oh, well, yeah, cool. Yes, here's my PayPal." And so he gave it to me, and I got the money, and that was neat. I got $75. That was a cool thing. And I wrote another story, and the same thing happened a couple of days later. He was like, "Hey, that's really good too. Do you care if I pick that one up?" I'm like, "No, hell yeah, man, please do. I'd love $75."
Yeah.
And so, I did that, and to me, it didn't plant a seed where I thought, "Oh, this is a cottage industry. I'm going to do really well with this." I just thought, like, man, that's crazy. Wait until I go to work and tell the guys that I sold a 1,500 word story, and got paid for it over the weekend. And it was business as usual for me. I just went on about my day, and it was not. I'm trying to give you a realistic timeline. 7 days later, I get another message from Lighthouse, and they were just like, "Hey, do you do commissions?" And so I just told them flat out, I was like, "Hey, man, you're talking to me like I know what I'm doing, and I really don't. What are you talking about?" And he said, "Well, it's where I just, tell you I'd like this kind of story. Can you write it? And I'll pay you." I was like, "Well, maybe, could be. Well, we'll see what happens, but I'd be glad to give it a shot." And so, and actually, that's where the Fire Tower series started. He said,
That was a commission for him.
well, and the wild thing for me, man, it was such a learning curve, dude. Because that's what he said. "Well, I need a story about a fire tower." And I said, "Well, I have no idea what you're talking about." And so it's embarrassing, really. He said, "Well, those fire towers in national parks and state parks that literally watch out for fires." I said, "Yeah." And he said, "Write me a story about something weird that happens while somebody works at one."
Yeah.
And I said, "Okay." And he said, "And can you write me another one?" And I said, "Well, maybe, man, but I don't know if I can finish the first one." And he said, "Well, if that one goes well, can you write me a Staircase in the Woods story?" And I said, "Well, same thing, man. You're going to have to educate me. What's Staircase in the Woods story?" So he sent me some links. You do not understand how little I knew about this starting out. It was wild. So you learned about Staircase story. So I hit lightning, or I hit Lighthouse back and said, "Hey, I can write you a story, but can I do both of them together? Like, I
Yeah.
don't know if I can write you two. And he was just like, well, if you can, go ahead. And so I did. I don't, which, now I understand why maybe that was a weird concept because, I didn't know the rules then, so I could just do whatever I wanted. I probably wouldn't try to mix those two things together again now because now I know enough about things to be intimidated, but back then I was just young and dumb. So,
Honestly, when I read your Fire Tower story, this is a revelation to me because when I first read your Fire Tower story, I would have thought like, oh, this guy worked in a fire tower or something. Like, it was so well written and like the details and everything, and it's like this guy must have either worked park ranger somewhere or like he had an uncle or something who was a park ranger or a fire tower guy. So to hear that you didn't even know like anything about it is kind of amazing. And I didn't know what creepypasta even was either when I first started getting commissions. But
yeah.
yeah, it's kind of amazing how ignorant we
It's a
can be
learning
about this
curve.
stuff and still get started in this industry.
Yeah, which should be a word of hope to people who want to do this, man. Because
Yeah,
if neither one of us knew about it, if we could do it, you can do it.
right.
Uh, but yeah, oh no, man, and I think that was my third story. I think that was the third thing I'd ever written.
Wow.
And man, it was fun. I had a good time. And from that point, after that commission, I was like, you know what? If I took this seriously, I think I could do a little bit with it. Not a whole lot. It's not going to replace my day job. I'm not as cool as Jordan Grupe, man. I've not been able to make it my full-time vocation, which, man, hats off to you that you have found a way to make a good living doing this. I'm proud of you, man. That's just the coolest thing ever.
Thank you. I feel very lucky, and yeah, it's very blessed. It's kind of a dream come true. So,
well, man, there's some luck in there, but that's built on a foundation of talent. You're good at what you do, so let's not delve too deeply into the idea that you just lucked out, man. You were very, very good at what you do.
well, thank you. I appreciate that. I'm sure there is an element of luck involved, but yeah, I do work hard at it too. So yeah, I appreciate it.
Yeah, man. So pat yourself on the back a little bit.
Yeah.
But my experience with Lighthouse at that point made me realize, and again, everybody has different opinions on it, but working with Lighthouse showed me that there was a way that this could be lucrative. I could do something that I enjoyed, and it could make me money. And fortunately, I met enough narrators early on that were pretty candid with me and let me know the amounts of money that were on the table doing these things. And so I've been, you've painted me as being a nice, helpful guy in OOC, which I hope is predominantly the truth. But I'm also I'm trying to find a way to be nice to myself, and there's not really one. I'm not super nice about the narration community as a whole, and that's
Yeah.
not all of them. There's a lot of narrators out there. I think if you're doing AI channels, AI narration, I think that's not really the best way to present what we do, and much less the amount of theft that comes out of the AI narration community, and sometimes even, real voice community.
Yeah. I
I'm
wanted to talk with you about that a little bit. It's like so rampant. I saw a post on OOC, I think yesterday, where somebody was saying, I just posted my first story, or I just posted a story, and it's already up on 10 different channels.
Yeah.
And you replied saying something like, yeah, that's why I don't really post Nosleep anymore. It's like every time I post a story, 10 different random channels, all of a sudden it pops up, and it's like, that this is supposed to be a way to potentially make some income. And how do you do that if nobody wants to buy the story because 10 other channels have already done it without asking,
Right, and that goes exactly along with what you're talking about kind of the monetization, the business side of this is it writing a story and putting it on Nosleep. And I do want to be very clear for anybody that reads Nosleep and hears this, or anybody that writes on Nosleep. I love Nosleep. I do. End of story. It's a great community. It is a fantastic place to get started. It's a fantastic place to be after you know what you're doing, but it's also going to be a frustrating place if you are somebody that wants to be in control of the distribution of your content, because there are tons, as you said, there are YouTube narration channels, podcasts, TikToks, uh, even Twitch streamers. I've had trouble with that over the years too, um, where people will just go on there, see your stuff, and say, "I'm going to take this and I'm going to attempt to make money off of it." But what they don't do is reach out to you and get your permission. They don't get or license.
Right.
I treat narrators like a professional. Jordan, even when I talk to you and I've known you for years, man, I still tell you like I'm licensing the story to you.
Yeah, as you should.
It's an agreement.
Yeah.
And so I'm treating you like a professional. You have a story license. All of the stuff on your channel, you have license to use. And so when these AI narrators, and people did it to you too, I know you've been through all this, but for people who don't understand the process, when you post something on Reddit on Nosleep, some narrators are going to reach out to you. They're going to ask you if they can narrate your story, and some of them are going to offer you money. Some of them are smaller channels, and they're just going to ask you politely for permission to do it, and that's up to you what you want to do with that. I'm not gonna get into the rabbit hole of whether you should give away a story or not. But what I will tell you is what is truly frustrating is when you find out that somebody has taken the story that you've poured your blood, sweat, and tears into, you've lovingly crafted it, you've worked hard on it, and then you see that somebody has taken it, copied and pasted it into a text to speech robotic voice and slapped it on YouTube and didn't even put your name on it. That is frustrating, and I'll spend all day filing DMCA complaints. I'm gonna strike your channel, and I'm gonna try to get you shut down. And that's for two reasons. First of all, and I hate to sound petty about it, but you've seen my meaner posts and advice about this. Look, you stole my stuff, and I want you to pay the price for that. End of story. You don't get to have my things and monetize it without my permission. It's not to say that I've never given a story to a channel for free. I have. It's not a thing that I won't do. But if you didn't ask me permission, I'm going to file a DMCA strike on you. That's a copyright strike against YouTube channels for using things that they don't have permission to use. And when you reach out to me, and this is almost always what happens, I file the strike, Jordan, and then I get an email 2 days later saying, "Oh, hey, I'm so and so, and I run this creepypasta channel. I used 5 of your stories, and I've got the copyright strikes on there. I'm sorry, I didn't know not to use your stuff without permission. Can you delete your strikes?" I'm going to go ahead and tell you what. No, I'm not going to. It's you stole my stuff. And it is not my job. And this is the big community debate, man. And I'm sorry that I'm getting on my little soapbox here, but this stuff pisses me off. There are 2 camps of people in Nosleep, and I've been in both, but I live in one now. And the camps are, you should help new narrators by teaching them what to do. If they take your stuff without asking, you should be patient with them and explain the process. And I used to do that, Jordan.
Yeah.
I did it 60 or 70 or 80 times.
Yeah.
And something about the 81st time it hit, man, I was sick of it. It's not my job as an author to come to you when you have used my stuff without permission and explain the legality of it, what the process is, how you acquire these stories. That's not on me. That's on you. You want to start this monetized YouTube channel where you will make an income, and I don't need to be a free brick in the base of that without agreement.
Yeah, and this might sound harsh to somebody listening from the outside who has no experience with any of this, but I have the exact same experience where I started out being nice and, try to explain to people, and it just wears you down after a while. It's like at a certain point, you're getting money literally taken out of your pocket by people, and they're taking your stuff without any effort to understand the rules. Like, just because it's posted online does not mean that it's free for you to take. And it says it right there at the side of Nosleep. There's no way, I'd like to think there's no way a sensible person could miss it. where it says all of these stories are copyright, belong to the owners. You must reach out to them before using these stories. And yet, like, not a day goes by where people don't get their story stolen. And these channels, a new one, 10, 100 new ones pop up every day. And literally, you can't keep up with them because they just copy and paste your story. It's 3 clicks, and it's in a text-to-speech thing. They can post a video, they can post 10, 20 videos a day if they want to. It's like, and there's no way to keep up with them. And at a certain point, as a writer, having money taken out of your pocket, you just start to feel like hopeless about it. And it's just like, I have to start doing something, and I can't just be nice with these people anymore. And yeah, like, it probably sounds harsh to somebody on the outside, but like, this is the same as stealing from a store. Like, you can't walk into a store, grab a PS5, take it, and walk out. And it's the value we're talking about is not that far off. Like, these are often stories that are, to the narrators, worth a couple, $300-$400, sometimes thousands of dollars to a big channel. So yeah, you're literally taking hundreds of dollars, if not thousands, from writers and from narrators. So yeah, like, we as writers have to fight back somehow.
Well, and another issue of it, and this is one I don't talk as much, and you could talk more on than me, is I will tell you, and anybody who listens to this, if you run an AI narration channel and you get permission and you pay people, good for you. You've done it correctly. That's fine. I'm not telling you that you shouldn't exist. I don't. If people like listening to AI narrations, Jordan, I really don't care. Doesn't matter to me. That's okay. I'm 40 years old, man. I don't get to decide what you like, and you don't get to decide what I like. So whatever does it for you, that's cool. But what I will tell you is this. It also kind of burns me up, especially to see a text-to-speech channel succeeding and doing well. Even when they're stealing things, and then there's somebody like you who spends hours of their day tracking down stories, vetting the story, finding the good story, contacting the author, getting permission, recording the story, editing the story, putting in the music, putting in the sound effects, putting it up on your page. Your community engagement with your YouTube channel is so good, man. You're just good at what you do. And then I go watch, Dr. Turd Burglar's Fear Factory. That's an AI channel that churns out 22 stories a day with that mechanical tin voice, and people are on there, wow, in the comments, wow, that's a great story. You're a good writer, yay! Like,
got 50,000 views.
Yeah, and then there's people, you put the work in, or people like Animus or Animos, however he says his channel name. He struggles to, crack the 2 to 5K range and does these beautiful narrations. You do beautiful narrations, and he's making his money for it. But Dark Somnium does beautiful narrations. Dr. Nosleep, people who are out there paying people that work with them, spending the time working really hard on it. And then you have this no talent ass clown who went out and stole 30 stories in a day and churns them out like mass produced garbage. Yeah, I'm mad at you, and I don't think you should exist. And I'll do everything that I can when you steal my stuff to get your channel shut down.
Yeah, I'm giggling over here, but yeah, it's like, it's such a sore point for so many writers, and like, God bless the writers who this doesn't bother them, this doesn't affect them. Who just kind of let it shrug it off their shoulder. But I don't know, maybe it's just the amount of time it's happened to me and the amount of money I've had stolen from me. But at this point, it's like, I'm on the same boat. It's like, if you steal my story, I'm going to do a copyright strike on your channel. I'm sorry, not sorry.
100%, man. And I'm going to quit railing against it. I want to finish it by saying this. There are a lot of really great narrators out there that are doing things the right way. And if you're a narrator and you're listening to this, you know which one of those camps you fall into. And so for the narrators that are doing it the right way, I hope you have $1 million year. I hope you get a Casper mattress deal for your channel. And for those of you who are stealing stuff, I hope every channel you start gets shut down and YouTube kicks you off permanently. I hope they track your IP, and I hope they won't even let you watch an episode of Last Week Tonight on there. I don't know, man.
Yeah.
It's that's my closing thought on that. The intellectual property theft lights me up. I like to be a nice, positive guy, but hey, and if you're a new narrator and you want to learn how to do this, if you listen to this now, you listen to Jordan's stuff because you want to learn how to be a good narrator. Cool, you're in the right place. Send him a message. Read up on it online. I bet Jordan, you'll talk to anybody that wants to talk to you, wouldn't you?
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah, go learn how to do it, and then start your channel. But don't start your channel with no knowledge, steal a bunch of stuff, and then come back later and say, "Oops, messed up real bad. I'm sorry." I don't have a lot of sympathy for you. You don't get to start doing something before you know how to do it. Learn what you're doing. Learn the legality of it. Learn what your responsibilities are, because stupidity is not an excuse.
Yeah, go on Nosleep OC. I think that's where it's posted. There's a narration FAQ
Yep.
that I think Animas did.
He did, yes.
Yeah, and it's just all about how to get started, how not to steal stories, not rip people off.
Yeah.
It should be common sense, but I get it's not for everybody. I want to give a quick shout out to a few channels that we both work with that do things the right way and actually pay authors. Dr. Nosleep, you mentioned.
Yes.
He's really solid for, like, he reached out to me, I think, or I reached out to him, either way. But he commissions a lot of No-Sleep writers to do stories. Full Body Chills, we both worked with. Is a really good podcast.
Could not speak highly enough of the two of them.
100%.
Full Body Chills is fantastic as well. Fantastic. Love them. Writing two for them right now.
Nice. Yeah, like, they pay authors fairly. They do a great job with the production quality of the episodes. Like, way beyond anything I've ever done in terms of voice acting and sound effects and soundscapes and everything. So they're really solid.
To be fair, and all my respect to David Flowers over at FBC. Jordan, you do a great job. David might or might not have a multi-million-dollar production company. I'm just saying.
What's that?
I said, when you're talking about the quality difference between your show and FBC, the Full Body Chills does have a multi-million-dollar production company. I'm just throwing that out there for the listener. Jordan is making magic on a shoestring budget.
I appreciate that. I listened to your I mentioned the Hidden Treasures story by you the other day on Full Body Chills, which was amazing. Jesse Pullen has done one recently for them called The Hole. I don't know if you listened to it.
Yes, so I loved it.
I had to message him as soon as I finished listening to it. It was like, dude, the story's amazing.
Oh, yeah.
Travis Brown, Grand Theft Auto has done a bunch for them as well. If you haven't listened to Full Body Chills, check them out because they're really, really good. Who else is good for paying authors? Chilling App has paid pretty well in the past.
Chilling App does pay, and I do want to say I'm not endorsing rates. I'm just telling you channels that pay.
Yeah.
So if somebody listens to this and they have beef with them, that's for you to decide. Lighthouse Horror pays writers. Let's see.
Creepypasta.
Mr. Creepypasta.
Mr. Creeps pays writers. Yeah. Like, we've shouted out, we've mentioned the channels that do it poorly, so I figure we might as well mention the ones that do it well. I'd like to think that I pay writers fairly.
You very much do. It's Jordan is a friend and somebody who buys my dinner unintentionally by paying me for my stories as well. So
it's a nice feeling to be able to carry that on a little bit, because, like, it's been hard these past year or two getting paid commissions and getting stories narrated for, like, making that kind of side hustle money. So it's nice to be able to continue it on a little bit.
Well, and I appreciate the fact that I know you're somebody I like working with anyway, and you pay writers fairly, and it thrills me to death to know that you do.
I appreciate that. Yeah, I try. I mean, it would be nice to get to the point where I can pay a little bit more, but at least I feel good saying I'm paying people fairly.
I feel like you do what you can, and anybody that gives you a story, and this is something else for writers, where you've got to work under terms that you are comfortable with. And Jordan, there is nothing about the terms of writing with you that I'm uncomfortable with. I know what I'm looking at when I give you a story. So if anybody's agreed to what you're paying, then you're paying them fair, man. It's we're on board, buddy. Don't sweat it. You pay what you can, and we are okay with it.
You did the Park Ranger series for the channel, which we're looking at another part, hopefully in the future.
We are. I've got the. We can talk about that sometime, or just whatever you want to do.
I just want to hype it up for anybody who hasn't listened to the first 2 parts yet. It's really good.
Well, there is more coming. That's my new trademark phrase with that. There's more coming.
Well, I always know whatever you're working on, it's going to be quality. So I'm not no rush. Take your time.
Oh no, you're a super patient guy. I appreciate that.
Anything you want to plug? I know we're definitely over the hour here, so I probably got to let you go pretty soon. I know you're a busy guy. I appreciate you taking the time.
Oh no, you're
with me.
Fine, man. And you can edit out all the slop. Maybe by the time people listen to it, you can get it down to a tight 45, Jordan.
I think people will enjoy listening to what you have to say.
Well, I don't know, man. I'm at this point. Do you watch The Simpsons, Jordan?
I used to watch it a lot. I haven't watched any new episodes recently.
Well, no, I haven't either. But there's an old episode. There's a picture of Grandpa Simpson, and it's a picture in the newspaper of him shaking his fist at the sky, and it says "Old man yells at cloud" beneath that. And that's what I feel like I sound like now. The longer that I talk, it's just an old man screaming at the sky. So what do I want to plug? Well, I would plug you because I try to name drop you in most of the stuff that I do, but I don't really need to name drop you on your own show. So, but anyway, if this is your first time here, keep listening to this guy. He's solid, does good stuff. Great writer, great narrator. Let's see, what do I want to plug? Well, I will toss out a couple of things. So I do have one book out, of course. What little indie writer doesn't have a book on Amazon? I have a book out through Velox Books. It is called I've Done This Before. My name is Ryan Major, and if you type in I've Done This Before by Ryan Major, it should pop up. It is available in ebook, paperback, hardback, and they recently put it out in audio format. So that was neat to see. One of my friends told me it popped up on there in audiobook. I had no idea that it did, but I guess Jacob over at Velox is being sneaky and slid that audiobook version in there. So that's available. And funny story. So Jacob actually Jacob's the publisher over there, Alan's Velox. And I just enjoy this little anecdote. Jordan, I don't know if you ever do live events, but when I do and I sell books, the personalization I do when I sign it is the title of the book is I've done this before, and the joke is that I really haven't. It's my first book, and so I draw a little arrow and put in I've never done this before. So anyway, I've Done This Before is available in pretty much any format you can do except just zapping it directly into your brain. That is available. And also recently, Velox did put out 3 anthology volumes for free in the Amazon store that features a multitude of Velox authors, including some of our friends like Renee Wren and Travis Brown. I'm in there. There are 3 books. They're all free. And hopefully they're teasers, too. That's my way of trying to shout out a ton of authors at once. If you do pick up a copy of those books, they have stories from all of the different authors in it, and it will have a link after the story in the book that will link you directly to that author's book from Velox.
Okay, I see here. So the Nightmare Library, Volume 1.
Nightmare Library Volume 1, I'm in that one.
Okay.
But there are 2 other volumes. All of them are free. So there's 3 in total. I think there's 10 stories in each. So it's 30 free stories from some really good writers. Get on there and look who's there, buddy. You'll be surprised how many of them you'll recognize. So
because I see Travis Brown, J.G. Martin, who we know is Born Beach on Reddit. Connor Phillips, who's started I think him and Travis started the Cryptic Compendium. He's a very well-known Reddit author.
So.
Got Renee Wren, T.J. Lee. Wow, yeah, a lot of big names just in this first one.
Yeah, absolutely, quite a load of really, really good Nosleep writers, and most, a lot of us. Jordan, you've got 2 books, man. So yeah, let's go ahead and shout you out there as well. I'm actually looking at it right now on my bookshelf. Jordan was kind enough to send me a signed copy of his book, which I still owe you. Don't think I don't know. I still haven't mailed the sucker.
Oh yeah, I have a copy of your book as well, but it's not signed. So
Well,
when
I still owe you one, but Jordan has two books out currently. They're both fantastic, and it's Beneath the Asylum, and then what is the name of the other one, man?
Beneath the Asylum and Escape the Asylum is the follow up, and then I've got the two collections as well: No Sleep Tonight and From the Darkness.
Yes. So pick all those up. Those are Jordan Group books. I'm really bad at shouting out my own stuff. I just start shouting out other people's
Yeah.
work. So
Well, no, I think that's good. At least people know where to find you. Your gtripp14 on Reddit for anybody who hasn't checked out your stuff on Reddit. You got a ton of good
Yeah.
stories on there. Blanket, she came to me, Blanket in the Stars. Did that win like a yearly award on Reddit on Nosleep?
yes, I think that was it was either 22 or 23. I can't remember. My brain's turning to mush, but either in 22 or 23, it won best single entry story. So that was pretty cool, and it was a story that I loved. So I'm glad it was
Well
well
deserved.
received.
Yeah, very well deserved. That was a really great story.
Well, that's really kind of you, man. Uh, Other than that, man, I don't really have anything that I need to try to pitch out to the crowds, but I do appreciate your time as always, man. It's good talking to you whenever I get the chance.
Yeah, thanks again for joining me. I really appreciate it, man.
Anytime, buddy. You call me anytime you need anything.
All right, man.
Take it easy, buddy.
Talk to you later.
All right, everybody. Hope you enjoyed my chat with Ryan Major, aka the great gtripp14. If you want to support him, please check out his book on Amazon, follow him on Reddit. There will be links in the description below. I get the feeling we'll be seeing plenty more of gtripp14's work on the Jordan Grupe Horror channel as well. So stay tuned to the main feed for more. Links in the description below. Thanks everybody for listening. Hope you like, subscribe, and comment. And tell me what you think of the first episode of the Grupe Project.